We are gathered here today at an important moment in our nation's history. A moment signposted by a combination of challenges and opportunities. Challenges because Nigerians are passing through unintended economic challenges occasioned by a few of the bold policy decisions taken this administration. Opportunities because our economy is being refined and recalibrated for better future. And when dialogue is a stronger pedestal for good governance. Economic prosperity for the nation remains the ultimate goal of the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, because it is the engine that drives progress, lifts families out of poverty, and builds strong, resilient societies. To achieve this goal, we must enjoy peace and stability because it is the cornerstone upon which we build trust, cooperation, and shared purpose. When peace reigns, policies yield results, businesses thrive, investments flourish, and creativity is unleashed. This administration, at inception in May 2023, inherited an economy in need of urgent, bold, and imaginative reforms. Policy measures including removal of finance sustainable fuel subsidy had to be taken. This, it must be admitted, has resulted in unexpected adjustments that have impacted all facets of the economy and our daily lives. But that was the only option that any government could take. I recall what Professor Rama told me, the president of Afrexim Bank, on his visit to Nigeria, was the best decision to take in that industry, petroleum industry. And he said the fuel subsidy regime got to a point where export of crude could not pay for importation of petroleum products. He said it was very bad business. It's one of the most respected development economists in the world. President of Afrexim Bank in Nigeria. I said it was at that point that Nigeria approached Afrexim Bank for support in order to enable us to import and pay for petroleum products. Bad business. The administration similarly inherited a security situation that existed for 2 decades and required greater attention in terms of upgrade of security architecture, infrastructure, systems, capability of personnel. This has compared massive infusion of scarce resources from our already dwindling revenues. The objectives have been to secure lives and property, build foreign investor confidence, and increase food production by returning our communities, many of them, to their homes and farmlands in safe and secure environment. There are 5 local governments from Benue State being similarly affected. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu saw the mandate of Nigerians to lead the nation at this difficult time because he knew that effective leadership was required to address the challenges that had accumulated over several years. That was why he sought to renew the hope of Nigerians. Within a space of 14 months of purposeful and meaningful leadership, the administration has recorded tremendous accomplishments that lay the foundation for immediate, medium, or long-term prosperity of Nigerians in an inclusive manner. I have decided not to go into details. I want you to take note of what has happened in the labor sector and the masses. It was a protest that led to conclusion on the issue of minimum wage from 30,000 to 70,000 naira, an increase of over 100%. This I want to emphasize because constructive engagement is more important, it's preferable, and more result-oriented than when we seek to go on protest marches. I recall as a student in the 70s, I think 1970, 79, somewhere, when we said Ali must go, we protested and the whole protest went out of control. Tragedies were recorded on many campuses. We said Ali must go. Ali didn't go anywhere. He remained the Minister of Education. He appeared before the judicial inquiry. Ali was later to become senator and even vetted some candidates for appointments into the federal cabinet. It's just like NSAS protests. They yielded anything but negativity. So you see, it's not everything that must protest who must do this. I'm explaining this to you because you're very knowledgeable people. You do your research. If I'm off the mark, you can know. Even if you were not born at the time we said Ali must go. I'm 70 years, so I know that in this hall, I think I'm the oldest man. This other one sitting here are younger than me.
The SGF had said, Mr. President, is not against protest. Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Democrat to the core. He believes in federalism. He believes in freedom of speech and human rights. His concern, and that of many people in this country and even beyond, is that the protest would remain peaceful and orderly, such that the gains that have been made over the last 12 to 15 months should not be dissipated, that the momentum that has been achieved in turning around the Nigerian economy should not be dislodged, disturbed, or dislocated. I think amongst many other well-meaning Nigerians, the president truly understands the concerns that are being expressed, particularly the high and elevated cost of living, which is not peculiar to Nigeria at this stage. With wars in Ukraine, Gaza, and even Sudan, there's disruption around the world, and there has not even been a full recovery from COVID. So inflation is high around the world. Costs are high around the world. And with our import dependency for raw materials and so forth, we too are feeling the effects. However, inflation is falling around the world and in Nigeria. Over the last 15 months or so, the economy has been turned around, and I would even say saved from the precipice. I will not repeat all the specifics of the initiatives that were reeled out by the Minister for Information, but I will envelope them by saying that, on the one hand, we have come from a situation where the nation was living on debt. Every time there was a bill to be paid, it was not paid from revenue, it was not paid from investment funding, but it had to be paid from debt, particularly from the central bank, and of course, that was not sustainable. That is no longer the case. The revenue of Nigeria, as a result of diligent application of technology and new processes to federal government expenditure, revenue, including that of the revenue earning ministries, departments, and agencies, as well as federal government-owned enterprises, has doubled. Compared to the first half of 2023, the 2024 revenue of the federal government has doubled and is expected to maintain that trajectory. And on the cost side, there has been rejigging, there has been reconfiguration of the procedures and the processes such that costs are now under control, spending more visible and accountable, and the money of Nigerians is being well spent. So that was the basis on which, as a result of implementing measures that were necessary, reform measures that were needed to save the economy, yes, they had led initially to a spike in cost, because it's like medicine. You take the medicine and then the effect comes. So the cost is the medicine and it comes first. However, already we are seeing that the benefits are coming. The economy in the first half of this year has grown. Agriculture, which was negative. So when you say, why are food prices high? Why is there a lack of food? Because agriculture was contracting. In the first half of this year, in the first quarter of this year, it has started growing back again, and we expect that, and we're doing everything to maintain that. Industry is growing, led by ICT, technology, led by solid minerals. It is growing and creating employment. And likewise, of course, services, given our relatively high skill level. Services are also growing. So that is the turnaround that and the momentum that we do not want to see slow down in any way. But on the other hand, Mr. President, even while campaigning, had committed to ensuring that the costs of reform were not to be borne by the poorest and the most vulnerable in the society. It had to be those who are more wealthy, who had more reserves, that would have to share the biggest part of that burden. And so, as was said earlier by the Minister for Information and National Orientation, a series of measures in agriculture, for small-scale industry, even for larger industries, there's financing at 9% is being made available. For transportation costs, CNG, which is 30% of the cost of PMS for fueling vehicles is being made available. And it's important to point out that in implementing reforms, there are times when what is planned and the timetable that is planned sometimes slips. But the answer is not to now throw out the effort. The answer is not to stop. The answer is to keep going and keep trying. That was the case with the direct benefits, the direct payments for 15 million households, covering 75 million people. At first, it didn't quite go according to plan. So there was a pause. And now, under a much better and technologically strong configuration, payments to individuals have started going out again. In the last, and since it was restarted, 1 million households, covering 5 million people, have received the benefits. And in the last week alone, 300,000 payments went out. So under the new system, we can expect a scaling up, a speeding up of the payments that Mr. President committed to giving to the poorest and most vulnerable, to helping them. Likewise, the CNG effort is going to gain momentum. Buses and kits are expected to arrive this coming month and for the rollout to be speeded up. So we have stayed the course in terms of the effort to make sure that what is promised is delivered, and the benefits are now going to continue to be rolled out. So what has happened is that we have implemented and are implementing a comprehensive plan that covers agriculture, covers young people, it covers transportation costs in the urban sector, it covers grants to smaller enterprises, 50,000 naira for micro enterprises, and it covers, as I said earlier, funding at an affordable interest rate. Inflation is slowing, but interest rates are still high as central bank battles inflation and carries out its monetary policy in line with its mandate. So against that backdrop, it's important to find cheaper funding so manufacturing can go on, so people can borrow to do their businesses. And in addition, there is approved and coming in the housing sector financing for people to afford mortgages so that they can.
The SGF adds on and previous speakers, but from the perspective of planning and budget. What do we do, particularly as it relates to our governance? We, the Ministry of Planning, is responsible for the national consensus, which is documented typically in our national long-term perspective plans, development plans, and our renewed hope agenda. This government, led by President Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, we have a strategy. We campaigned on it. That strategy is the renewed hope agenda. The summary of it is that it is designed to confront our reality. It's a strategy to restore an economy that works for all while supporting those who are vulnerable. It's based on appreciation of the fact that we are not where we want to be. And maybe there's no debate about that. Just yesterday, Bismarck Rewani presented a 50-year data from 1960 to 60-year data to show that since our independence, our rate of growth has been lower than our aspirations. And this could be for a lot of reasons, and we are not going to go into them. But President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu believes that sentiment will not solve this problem, blame game will not solve this problem, but as other countries have done, innovation and imagination and proper appreciation that decades of underinvestment brought us to where we are can catalyze us and galvanize us and enable us to form a consensus that can help us solve the problem. That was why when he was swearing us as ministers, he warned that we should imagine that we are drawing water from a dry well, so that when we go to our ministries, we should be imaginative and find solutions for Nigerians. Those solutions involve choices that are both pleasant and tough, but needed to be taken. And responsible leadership sometimes necessitates a leader to take tough choices. As most of you will imagine, there's nothing that a politician loves than to be clapped for or applauded. But a responsible leader, while desiring that, will say, well, we have to take the tough choices for the future. And President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has led us in that. So that's why in delivering on those renewed hope agenda priorities, including the restoration of macroeconomic reform, we are instructed that we should ensure a plan-based governance and budgeting to equitably include all within our constitutional federalism. It's not only concerned for the federal government, but it's equally concerned for the subnationals generating more revenue on a sustainable basis. We re-engineered governance consistent with our federalism, created MDAs that we believe will bring attention to those sectors and we can make haste quickly, among them being steel, creative economy, blue and maritime economy, the livestock sector, as well as instructing us as part of the budget process to ensure equitable spread of projects to support the strategy which can quickly restore macroeconomic growth and development. It is in so doing that he also supported the restoration of autonomy to local government. Noteworthy is his decision recently to sign into law 2 development commissions, North to West, South, is consistent with the demand of those constituencies and our belief that any move to draw attention in what can be done better to foster development is welcome. Not surprisingly, our budget reflects our priorities and innovation. We have increased funding for security, as you have heard from the previous speakers, and I'm not going to go into the detail. We have increased funding for infrastructure, for human capital development, education, health, social transfers to support the vulnerable.
Used with a lot of statistics, a lot of figures, a lot of facts, a lot of submissions on the concrete steps that this government have taken in the last 1 year plus. My duty is not to add to the bombardment of figures and statistics. I just want to speak from the heart to Nigerians in general, and to lay out a few facts, maybe forgotten, but few facts that need to be re-injected into the public psyche. Fact number one is this: the rot that this administration met in office when it came into office, the national rot straddled all strata of national life. To controvert that is to deceive oneself. 2, Nigeria since 1960, or perhaps more empirically, since oil was discovered and exploited, Nigeria as a nation, as a society, has shifted attention away from other regenerative, constructive sectors of the economy, like agriculture, like solid minerals, and other sectors, manufacturing, industries, and stuff. And all of these have cumulative effects on our national economy. And because of the effect, the economic buoyancy through the free flow of petrodollars over several decades, even our values as a society took a downward trend. We abandoned the age-old values of morality, of discipline, of cultural ethos, and all of this percolated down into even our consumption patterns, economic consumption patterns. All of these things are bound to have an effect down the road. So we are going through the paroxysms of the effect of economic miasma, which had been a result of decades of either mismanagement, wrong priorities, perpetuation of wrong values in the society. There's no way any society will escape the effects of all of these misadventures. However, we all recognize that these things, negativities, have been there for long. And we all recognize the fact that something had to give. We must collectively as a society change the course of our destiny. But until last year, nobody in authority had the guts to take those painful, necessary, bold decisions until this government came into place. And then the issue of subsidy, which was removed, some say with a fiat. If that wasn't removed with a fiat, if we had gone into the usual debates and all that, till now we'll still be embroiled in the debates and no decision will be taken and the nation will be tottering on collapse. It only took a bold leader to take that bold decision when it was necessary. Now we are at the cusp of history. Nigerians must decide whether we need to go on and make progress and let the necessary bold policies, albeit painful in some aspects, whether we should let those policies grow into maturity or we regress as a society. We must take that decision. We can't escape it. You can't make an omelette without breaking the eggs. There's no way you can advance a society economically, socially, politically, even infrastructurally, without re-engineering and restructuring that society and putting it on the path of enduring progress. All the societies that our youths and even elders run to, whether we run there for soccer, social soccer, economic soccer, political sojourn, or even mere enjoyment of the ambience of a developed society. Those societies were not where they are today by fiat or through a magical wand or through societal deleterious effects of economic miasma without lifting a finger. No. Some generations before now in those societies made the necessary sacrifices when those sacrifices were, of course, very germane. It's the result of the sacrifices made by those societies, the previous generations, that you all run to enjoy there, while we refuse to make our own sacrifices at home so that our today and tomorrow would also be better. But we can only run for a while. We can hide as a nation, as a society. The more we run from the realities staring us in the face, the more we postpone the doomsday. But God forbid, we have been very lucky that at this point in the history of Nigeria, we have somebody who can take the bull by the horns and say, we must end years of the locust, and we must redirect our energies and resources towards instituting enduring legacies